feel like my hair just looks really funny. Anyway, sorry, my voice is a little messed up today. Like slightly under the weather, like ever so slightly. But today I'm doing my weekly update. This is Liam's Leapings number 72, for the 20th of January, 2024. I'm going to try to keep this one pithy, but I don't know about that. So the books I finished this week were these three. Yeah. All right. Well, the first off, actually, I finished Permutation City. I don't have a physical copy. And it's rather mind-blowing sci-fi. It looks at like um, simulation, essentially, in computer tech. It blends it well with alien life and interesting stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. I enjoyed the novel. It was fun to think about it, essentially. So I don't really know what else Egan wrote. I'm not sure what else I would care for, but it also looks at like some nice things about like damnation. The religion aspects are a little, I'm not sure he handled them the best, but they weren't bad. So yeah, I did enjoy Permutation City again. Like I said, kind of big idea, not super long, standalone sci-fi novel. The other books I finished, which I do have physically, are By Force Alone by Lavi Tidar. Not my favorite Tidar. In fact, if I were to, funnily enough, it's probably my least favorite book I read by Tidar, but the other three are amazing. All right, so this is really good still. And I did enjoy it. It definitely sets out to do what it wanted to do, and I feel like it does it pretty well. It is entertaining. It is very funny at times. Merlin is my favorite character. I think Arthur gets kind of lost later on. Now I realize that's kind of because he's telling these other knights stories, and that just happens. But I liked Arthur's parts with Kay and Merlin and whatnot. So very crude, but does a good job following the legend, particularly Thomas Mallory's version. This is essentially a take on Thomas Mallory rather than all of Arthuriana, I feel like. Though it does use the Parzival version of the Grail, I guess I should clarify. But for the most part, it seems to be mostly poking fun of Mallory. So very enjoyable. I'm glad I got to read this. It kind of helps my Arthur fix. Another book I finished was Murder in Cormier by Chet Williamson. It's about murder mystery in Cormier. It's interesting how the magic plays a role, and the main problem solver, essentially your Cadwell or whatever, is not the main character. It's told in first person from like his assistant, which there's probably some murder mystery crime duo like that I'm just not familiar with. That's fine. I don't read a lot of that stuff, but yeah, I did enjoy Murder in Cormier. It's nice because it kind of sets up the town of Gars. If you really want to get like a small town in Cormier, like really brought to life, then you might want to read the novel. It's really short as well. So I also finished Parasite by Steve Diamond. This is very entertaining. My review came out for this on Tuesday. I'm hoping to get this signed by Steve because I'll be at LTUE next month, and I assume Steve will be as well. I'm not sure on that, but I assume he will be. So, but I enjoyed Parasite. Looking forward to the sequel. This definitely went places I was not expecting. It's very different in some ways from the first book, and it'll be interesting to see what book 3 is like, I guess, because of that. So. And then the other books I read. Okay, so just real quick, I read very little in Cormier this week. Very, very little. I don't remember. Let's see, maybe a chapter or two. I think I read 2 chapters. That's because I got sidetracked by another novel I'll mention in a second. I read very little in Don Quixote as well. Still enjoying Don Quixote. I did read almost all of Thuvia Made of Mars. I started that this week. I'll finish this one probably tomorrow, if I were to guess. And then I am almost done with The Palace of Love as well by Jack Vance. So that's book 3 in The Demon Princes. So this is like book 4 in Barsoom. It's like the first one that's not about John Carter. And I didn't read any Burroughs last year, so I was like, let's change that this year. So, and I'm reading the book of 3 with my girls, and I'm doing some Gothic reading, of course, for class. Went over Bach Me Bloma of poem by Tolkien this week. That was really nice. I actually recorded myself reading, and that should come out on Thursday for anyone interested. Oh, I guess real quick before I get to the last book, I did get my copy of The Perils of Persiles and Sigismunda, a Northern Saga by Miguel de Cervantes. So it's the same author of Don Quixote, of course. This is translated, edited with introduction and notes by William Thomas Little. This is a new release, I think. This I only heard about it recently. So, yeah, it says copyright 2023. This is the last book Cervantes wrote. So I was very interested in reading it. Carta Marina. Interesting. It has a map. It says Scandia, which I assume is Scandinavia or Sweden. Maybe, yeah, that looks like Sweden and Norway. And it says Finnmarkia and Dania down there. Gotia. Yeah, so some map of Scandinavia from the 16th century, it looks like. So, this looks, what is this? Oh, I see. Okay, so more maps. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked because I just opened this book for the first time. It's got some cool stuff at the beginning. I am looking forward to reading this. It's kind of Miguel's take on Northern Europe at the time that he was living. So it's a lot more fantastic, I heard. If anyone wants to read it with me, let me know. It's much shorter than Don Quixote, but it's not. I don't know. There's probably a translation that's easier to access than this one because this is a scholarly publication. But I wanted to read that after I read Don Quixote as another early modern work I read this year. So, anyways, real quick, since I'm just taking too long, the other book I have been reading this week is Disquiet Gods. I'm also almost done with that. I have a few, maybe 4 chapters left. I don't know how long the physical book's gonna be, but the digital arc, is like 1,100 pages. I don't think it'll be that long. It'll probably be like 600, 700 pages, maybe 800. I guess it could be. I'm not really sure. Disquiet Gods, book 6 in the Sun Eater. I'm really enjoying it. It's not my favorite in the series. That would probably still be Kingdoms of Death, but I am quite enjoying it. I am eager to get to the end and see what happens physically. But if you haven't been reading Sun Eater, I think you'd probably like it. I'm excited for the series to end. I think the books are a little long still. That's like my one critique of Christopher generally. But it's good. It's entertaining. So that's good, right? I like the way he handles world building. He almost handles it like an epic fantasy, like lost past, but it's a past that in some ways we can recognize because it's the future. Right, the story set this takes place in the future. I think it's hilarious that the bad guys are not the bad guys so much, but the boogeyman essentially is just Americans. So, anyways, I think that's hilarious. But it's an interesting book. I like Sun Eater. If you stuck around on the channel, you know that my very first review I ever made on this channel was for Sun Eater. So, anyways, I don't have much else to say. Played some Lotro this week. I'm tired. I've been working again. I'm trying to prepare myself to present at LTUE next month. I'm pretty scared about that, to be honest. I need to do that. Prepare, and maybe I just saw you could propose some ideas for Writers Cantina next year, and so I'm like, maybe I should propose something. I don't know if I will. We'll see. It won't be on philology if I do, because that's not an academic conference. But anyways, how's y'all been? How's your week? Liam from Williams Lyceum. I'll catch you next time.